Hello, friends. I'm Erik Beimfohr. Welcome back to Spike Week. And on today's show, it's a bittersweet day in Spike Week sicko land. I'm drafting my 150th and, of course, final Best Ball Mania 6 draft on Underdog Fantasy. Actually, my last two, full transparency. But we're going to put the cherry on top of the Best Ball Mania portfolio today with my last couple of drafts. Go over my biggest player stands, my biggest player fades, the stacks I'm into, everything about the portfolio. Feel free to ask any questions about who I have drafted. We'll dive into all that and, of course, draft these last couple of teams here on Spike Week. Let's do it. Good morning for best ball. Good, wishing me good luck. I do appreciate it. Jenks, best ball, Chernobyl streets. I still have. We'll start with this. We're wrapping up Best Ball Mania. I'm excited. This was part of my personal plan, was to wrap up BBM a little bit earlier so that I can dive into the DraftKings and the drafter streets and big eliminator on Underdog, some of the different stuff that I want to get into. I think that we've been able to pounce on a bunch of things over the course of the last couple of weeks, maybe month or so during training camp. Hopefully nothing bad happens this weekend to any particular player stands or anything like that, but I'm excited to draft these last couple of BBM teams and see where the final portfolio stands. I'm going to dive into that first. We're going to take a quick look at my player exposures specific to BBM, right? So if you use our Draft IQ tool at Spike Week, you can pull all your exposures together. You can pull all the sites together, right? So you can see your overall exposures across all of Underdog, DraftKings, Drafters, and Fast Draft all in one. You can see individual site by site. You can see, right? So you can combine your eliminator and Superflex and all the different stuff on the site. But today we're just going to look just at BBM, right? And maybe even take a gander at a couple of my early BBM teams and see just how much I absolutely hate them, to see if I was an idiot or a genius back in May when we started drafting BBM. But of course, first, if this is your first time here, you're on your way in. If you could hit the like button, that would be absolutely awesome. You guys have been crushing it, really helping us out with the videos on the channel. Second, if if you're new, if you didn't watch yesterday's show, if you leave a comment on one of these videos on Fridays, so leave a comment on this week's videos, yesterday, today, tomorrow. For every comment you dropped, you'll be entered to win a free ticket to the Drafters main event. Our good friends over at Drafters have given us free tickets to give away. I have 3 free tickets every Friday, so a couple more Fridays left before the season starts to give away. If you drop a comment, that puts you into a giveaway on Friday. You do not have to be present on Friday to win the free tickets, but I will give them away at the end of the show on Friday, which of course is another news recap show. We'll recap everything that happens in training camp this week, which of course we recapped preseason week 2 yesterday. Go check that show out if you have not had a chance yet. Good morning, Mac. Good morning, Pi. It is an absolutely wonderful morning. I will say, we're maybe a little groggy today. We got the caffeine over here, but one of the puppos woke us up at 2:30 in the morning with a little stomach bug. So we're good, but a little lack of sleep, which is kind of fitting of this time of year, I think. GM Al, let's take a quick look at my portfolio here before we dive in. Obviously, you see here at the top of your screen, this is with 148 teams. I mentioned that I'm doing 2 Best Ball Mania drafts today. So if I move my head here really quickly, you see we got 471 teams on Underdog, and of course 148 of them are in Best Ball Mania. Across all sites, we can just take a look, right? So if I go to all, you will get an update here. Let me refresh this actually, just make sure that it's got all of my teams that of course I got to log in. Phenomenal radio / phenomenal streaming here that I made sure to be logged out when we pulled this up. A phenomenal question. Yeah, Jason asking how much JCM do you have? Feel free. I'm an open book. You can ask me about absolutely any player, and I will show you. If you show me yours, I'll show you mine. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. Let's start there. Sure. In Best Ball Mania, I've got it up to 6% of JCM. So I was not really drafting him. Obviously, I have 4, ADP value, if you will, on him. My average ADP is 137. The majority of my JCM shares have come in the last week. Basically, all of my JCM shares have come in the last week. He is on a good amount of 0 running back teams and a little bit of robust running back teams, and then some kind of Hawkeye builds in the middle there. But yeah, 6%. So it seems unlikely I get him today, honestly, given the price that's been on JCM the last week. Let's see how much Brian Robinson. I actually have no idea how much Brian Robinson I have. Gosh dang it. So 5% B-Rob. So I feel all right about that general breakdown. Of course, it would be nice to say, oh man, really wish we had more Krosky Merritt, but I actually have a smidge more of Chris Rodriguez, who I've been taking as kind of my zagging while everyone zigs over to JCM. I've been zagging over to Chris Rodriguez more so in the last round or a couple of last rounds in BBM specifically here down the home stretch. That's sort of been my pivot. Like I can still kind of get exposure to that situation and fade the market's steam on one player and sort of bet on another player who I think is quite good in that backfield as well. All right. Let's just quickly go into some of just my highest exposure players. And then we can look at some of the kind of fades or soft fades, whatever, some of the players I'm underexposed to in BBM. Would you be excited if B-Rob went to Dallas? Excited for whom? For B-Rob? Not really. I guess. I think it would still be a committee. I think he's still Brian Robinson. I think given the events of the last couple of days, I think that would be a good run out for B-Rob. Would I be excited about it? I'm not so sure. Why the zag to Rodriguez versus Eckler? Yeah, I've seen a lot of people with this question. I'm glad you brought it up to address. So I talked about this a little bit yesterday in like the news breakdown, right? The preseason week 2 breakdown and breaking down the overall Washington backfield. But how everything that Washington has shown us is that Austin Eckler is the passing down back. If Brian Robinson was removed from the equation last year, injured or something, Austin Eckler's role did not really grow. He remained the passing down back. If we remove Brian Robinson from this equation, what my expectation is there's 2, they kind of have these very distinct roles, which isn't always the case in the modern NFL, but it appears to be based on really every piece of evidence that we have from Washington is that they have 2 early down runners, if you will, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt and Chris Rodriguez. Chris Rodriguez actually the preseason game on Monday night that had everybody losing their minds for Bill, right? JCM is Bill. Chris Rodriguez started the game and he ripped off the best run of the game. he was great. And then he came out and then Bill came in and then Rodriguez came back out for the third drive. And then Bill played well into the third quarter. Is that the end all be all? No, of course, right? If we're talking about late season upside, no one is denying. Like I'm not sitting here saying there's anything wrong with Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. I've been targeting him. However, I think it's very, very possible that at a minimum to start the season, Chris Rodriguez is the first like early down runner. Austin Eckler and kind of Jeremy McNichols is the backup to Austin Eckler as like the passing down back. And so I don't foresee a real role change for Austin Eckler. I don't think that they've shown us any real indication that they want to grow Austin Eckler's role at his age and all that kind of stuff. The reason why they're happy to move on from B-Rob is they have other guys who are probably just better, at a minimum, just as good in the early down role. I don't think Austin Eckler is going to consume any of that. If I end up wrong, that's fine. I did move Austin Eckler up specifically on like some of the PPR sites a little bit, but I'm just like, he's not a priority target for me. The Rodriguez one is like, what if all this hype around Krosky Merritt is warranted and real and they're excited about him? But what if it's more like we're comfortable with him, but we're also comfortable with Chris Rodriguez? That's why he started the game on Monday night. What if this guy, right, at a minimum, if Brian Robinson is gone, Krosky Merritt, Chris Rodriguez, they have contingent value against each other, right? Let's just say Bill starts week 1. Well, now Chris Rodriguez is just what we were drafting Bill for before, right? A kind of committee back with contingent value behind Brian Robinson. That's a talented young player. So we've sort of just removed B-Rob from the conversation and got these two backs that I think are both viable. Both might have potential to be the starter. Both have contingent value against each other, and it is a very good offense that we are excited for. So I don't think Austin Eckler is like a bad pick necessarily. I just want to target these kind of early down runners. I think they are the high upside swings in the backfield in this offense. I know it's a BBM stream. However, Chris Rodriguez feels like the better pick for cumulative with price factored in. I think that that's totally fair. I think it's also possible that he could be a great chaperone if he is, if Bill takes over the course of the season, he could be a great chaperone to your Will Shipleys, your Tyler Algiers, your Travion Hendersons, your RJ Harveys type stuff. And obviously I draft a lot of like zero hero type running back stuff. He fits a lot of the builds that I'm going for. And then even if they are a guy who fades right to the run, you still always have that contingent value. If you recall, guys like Devin Singletary don't feel like late season guys. He lost the job to Tyrone Tracy, but then he kind of pops back up at the end of the season. Having the contingent value, you can have contingent value even as an old player, right? So that does mean you can still have late season value, even if it's a more logical bet that the younger player kind of transcends and takes over more of the role over the course of the season. All right. So to no one's surprise, Will Shipley is my highest owned player in Best Ball Mania with 67%. De'Ami Brown near the top of the list. Keaton Mitchell. We played a lot of the hits. Something I'm most excited for, Travion Henderson at 28%. And I did generally over the, I have drafted him over the course of the last couple of weeks for sure, amidst the rise, but generally have some pretty good prices on Travion. Similar with Braylon Allen. I have still also been drafting him of late, but we were taking a lot of Braylon Allen early before this rise. Got some really good value on Braylon. On the flip side, we didn't necessarily get such good value on Jalen Royals, but it's a last round pick. I took him more so on average in the like second to last round or something, and he's the last round pick. The same can be said for Trey Harris is down here somewhere, and that's going to be a big old ugly red number. Bad value on some Javonte from earlier this summer, Jarquez Hunter, Darnell Mooney, and Trey Harris. If we're going to point out the W's, we definitely got to point out the L's. 14% Trey Harris. Certainly not looking great, though. They do continue to speak positively about him, and I think it's more of a dynasty play. But hey, you never know. That could be some late season upside, as D. Owens says. Emeka Ibuka, definitely. Let's see here. Solid on Tank Bigsby as well. 15.6 here. ADP, kind of closing line value, if you will. And then Emeka Ibuka, 21% Emeka Ibuka, average ADP of 77. So, this is part of why I was looking forward to getting like BBM done earlier, is that, of course, I'm going to miss out on those. I didn't miss out. I drafted these guys on DraftKings and Drafters and such, but I'm going to have more teams still left to draft on those other formats that I'm not going to be able to get those specific guys. But on DraftKings, especially, you can get into some really soft rooms at the end of, when kind of the casual people are coming in and they got their tickets, or DK is giving them promotions and they're just dabbling in the best ball streets. Underdog and Drafters are just a lot sharper. So I wanted to try to extract some of that value a little bit earlier in BBM specifically. We never root for injuries, but at 67% Shipley, if Barkley hits the lottery and walks away, you're winning it all. Yeah, I just wanted to, we've talked about kind of getting your guys, putting your cojones on the table, if you will, and Will Shipley just being the backup to Saquon. Part of the Shipley thing for me, I don't know about for other people, but of course I think he's one of the most valuable handcuffs, and the price is just wrong. I think we priced him wrong. Obviously, I have him ranked more like 130, 128 overall, and he goes 180. So obviously, I have a very different perspective on where someone like this, like kind of a handcuff bet, should be priced. However, my big thing with Will Shipley is that I believe that there are not only like I'm not predicting, how should I say this? I'm not predicting this is necessarily going to happen, but Saquon Barkley is a little bit older, has had injuries before. The Eagles are going to make the playoffs, right? The Eagles are going to make the playoffs. They have a slightly tougher schedule. They probably want to win another Super Bowl is the goal this year after having won last year. Saquon Barkley piled up a lot of touches last year. That's a lot of wear and tear on his legs. Obviously, the extra games from the playoffs that Saquon hasn't experienced very often being a part of the New York Giants. It would be very logical to me to just pull back a little. No one's saying Saquon's going to like split the backfield with anyone, nor should he. But if we pull back just a little and we get this still elite offensive line, still elite offense, Shipley, Kenny Gainwell was the general passing down back last year. He did get to play. Saquon would play 70 to 75% of the snaps, and Kenny Gainwell would step in for the rest. If we just filter things back a little bit on Saquon's role, you could get some standalone value, I think, from Will Shipley. So that was sort of a big part of the equation to me, is that I think obviously if Saquon doesn't have to miss the season, but if Saquon ever misses a game, Will Shipley, I want him, right? If that game happens to be in the fantasy playoffs, right? I show up to week 17 and Saquon's not playing. It's like an absolute print fest to have Will Shipley. But over the course of the season, I think there's also outs to just like some useful games for him. And at this price, we often talk about like all it takes is like that one good game. Well, if I can get that because they just ease back on Saquon a little bit, and I can get that because Saquon could just, miss a game. We're not talking about, doesn't have to blow out his knee, a concussion, a tweaked ankle, he sneezed and his back locked up, whatever, right? Like anything can happen to these football players. They could have everything locked up by week 17. They could have the 1 seed locked up by week 17. No need to give Saquon 30 touches in a game like that. There's just a lot of these little different outs that I like to bet on these contingent value kind of players in those scenarios. How many times did you auto draft Saquon? I actually don't. Let's do that. We'll go by ADP and we can look at my exposures amongst that. So I have 2 BBM Saquon teams. So there you go. Clearly not intentional, I don't believe, especially because I didn't even get good value on him. So it was probably early auto draft Saquon teams. But amongst the first round, I have 11% Jamar Chase, 1% Bijan Robinson, again, $50. So 2 teams on Bijan Robinson, 13% CeeDee Lamb, 11% Jahmyr Gibbs, 5% Justin Jefferson, 1% Christian McCaffrey, 7% Nico Collins, 15% Malik Neighbors, and Puka Nacua rising up as it was originally CeeDee Lamb for much of the summer, but got a lot more late picks, it appears, down the home stretch. Malik Neighbors and Puka Nacua as my highest exposure players in the first round. Obviously, Puka has been a guy who is falling, so that number makes a lot of sense because I still have Puka ranked ahead of his current 11.7 ADP. I have him still ranked ahead. So it's also been quite nice to be able to get Puka with a little different texture of players as he's more readily available with different combinations. That has been quite nice. Amongst the second round, Drake London, AJ Brown, Brock Bowers, surprising to no one that's sort of the list there. I did get overweight on Jonathan Taylor. He's not the traditional style of running back that I like, but I think they're going to build with their quarterback issues. I think they're going to build the whole plane essentially out of Jonathan Taylor. And in half PPR, you won't see so much of this in full PPR formats, but in half PPR, I'm a little bit more in on Jonathan Taylor. Doesn't hurt that one of my favorite stacks, the Jacksonville Jaguars, you see here, this is the week 17 matchup column. You see, of course, he plays against the Jaguars. He also plays against the 49ers, which is another one of my highest exposure stacks in best ball. So that definitely doesn't hurt. The 0% Jacobs doesn't strike fear in your heart. It does not. I don't really see Josh Jacobs was not anything special last season. A stone zero of Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs was just like okay, this is cool. He's helping me, but every team that had Josh Jacobs over Malik Neighbors last year, like you just would have rather had Malik Neighbors. Jacobs was providing a bunch of, useful weeks and some level of spikes, but he was never just like going full scorched earth. I understand. He's the lead back on the Green Bay Packers. I like the Packers, but I think I just don't really like the price on Josh Jacobs. Wow, you really hate early running back. I just said I have 14% Jonathan Taylor and 11% Jahmyr Gibbs. I do generally lean, of course, to the superstar wide receivers and the superstar tight ends and the superstar quarterbacks. Early in drafts, I made exceptions for Jahmyr Gibbs and, as I mentioned, Jonathan Taylor. But so I'm very picky on early running back, yes, because I want to get overweight on the superstar wide receivers, tight ends specifically, those two. And so I'm going to be very picky, especially in half PPR. I like Bucky fine, but like the Bucky Irvings of the world are not super appealing to me in half PPR. And Josh Jacobs, I think, is just not one of my favorite prices. Trey McBride, my highest exposure player, kind of in the first few rounds. What's Kittle at? Let's find Kittle. Kittle 23. So I have $900. I could technically get Kittle to match Trey McBride, 24%. Trey McBride, 23%. George Kittle, and what did we say on Bowers? 14 and 14% on Bowers. So I don't draft them together. So that gets you almost 60% of what is that? Yeah, it is 60%, right? Yeah, 60% of the 3 elite. So 60% of my teams have an elite tight end on them. Pretty excited about that. All right, let's look at my best ADP values just for fun. We'll look at the best and worst. Let's look at the best. So I drafted Keenan Allen one singular time, and I drafted him at pick 205. Congrats to me. I drafted Mason Taylor one time, and I drafted him at pick 215. Again, shout out to me. I have 4% Chigakonkwo. I wish that was a little bit higher. And got some nice ADP value on the old Chig teams. Hunter Henry, Nick Chubb. We got two. Look at this. We got 2 Nick Chubb teams. So even if we're wrong about Nick Chubb, we're shielded with 2 total Nick Chubb teams. Had an average ADP of 188. Brett, this is nice. Braylon, Dante Thornton, Tank Bigsby, some actual like potentially useful contingent value. I did get good value on it. I took Chase Brown when he was so look at this. So I have Chase Brown ranked 31st. See, I'm a man of my word. My average ADP on my one team, my ADP on the one Chase Brown team was when he went 33rd overall. So I took him. See? So I'm just price conscious and having Emeka Buka and frankly Tyler Warren up here as nice ADP values is fun. Let's quickly look at the opposite side, which is oh boy, this one hurts. Okay, luckily, so no big stands until we get to Trey Harris. I took 5 total Joe Mixon teams, definitely earlier on, and those look bad. I think we can wipe those away. Devin Neal. Same thing. I took 1 early Devin Neal team, a couple Pat Freiermuth teams, a couple Jonnu Smiths before the trade. Is my guess on the Jonnu Smith, and that didn't go very well. 3 Najee Harris teams. That obviously that has not gone well either. Trey Harris, Rashee Rice, similar. I have not got good ADP value on my Chris Rodriguez teams, believe it or not, because You got to go get your guys if you want them on your teams at this point in the season. But just some funny ADP value stuff that you can check out in Draft IQ. One of my favorite views to get a quick, if you have a Spike Week subscription, you can use this exposures tab here within Draft IQ. One of my favorites to look through because gives you just like this super quick and dirty high level view into what your portfolio looks like. But then you can also dig down in to like, okay, well, what do those Trey McBride teams look like? You know, so I can still get the same view, the same high level view, but like filter down to teams with only certain players on them. And you can of course add up to a bunch of different players if you want to see that kind of stuff. What do my Trey McBride teams look like? Obviously, they're elite tight ends. I'm pretty sure that this should be. The other. So I have 5 of them are a bully tight end variety, which means I took another top 6 tight end, I believe. So there's like a Laporta on there or something like that. Hawkinson. It's obviously, Kyler is naturally my highest 11 of my Trey McBride teams have Kyler. And then here's sort of the other QB stacks that we built pretty flat after Kyler. 47% of my McBride teams have Week 17 correlation with the Bengals, and a lot of Ravens, Packers, Eagles, Bills on those teams. Can you do DK as well? If you're asking if the tool can do DraftKings, yes. I won't do draft. I'm just gonna keep it focused to BBM since we're closing out BBM here today. I'll do my DraftKings stuff at a later date as I focus more on those sites in future days. All right, so that was Solon. We got distracted with Trey McBride team. So overall, team structure and team stacks and team correlations, 47% of my teams. I mentioned. Yeah, again, if this is your first time joining us here on Spike Week, I've mentioned very frequently over the course of the summer that my goal is to win the flex. My general intent. I understand people will ask a lot of questions about, why don't you draft more 3 quarterback? Why don't you draft more 3 tight end? I have no pushback on the 3 quarterback, 3 tight end strategy stuff, but my counter to the fact that it's like an insane. More than 90% of teams, which you can also look at your opponent's teams here in Draft IQ. If I go to my opponent, you can go to opponent exposure and see the same data, but for all of your opponent's teams. If you look at the roster build stuff, and if you were to go down through this whole and sum up the exposures of all these different roster builds, it's like 90+% have at least 5 what we call onesies, quarterbacks or tight ends. A lot of them, as you see, 18%, the most popular build amongst my opponents on now this is across all of Underdog, right? A BBM. Okay, so anyway, across all 291 of my opponent's teams are 3, 5, 7, 3. That's what people build the most. And you see a bunch of other, obviously 2, 6, 8, 2. So I'm exaggerating on the 90%, obviously. So that may have been on DraftKings with the 20 rounds. Anyway, it's a large number, right? Are doing right. You see here 5 onesies, 5 onesies, 5 onesies. Here's 2 7-7-2s. 5% of my opponents is probably you psychopaths listening to this. 3 6 6 3. Another 6 onesies. Now we got 4 onesies. 6 5 5 5 5 6 6 6 7 6. You're right. There's a lot of. The most popular structures are almost always with at least 3, sometime, or at least 5, sometimes 6 of the onesies. So my counter to that was what you see in my personal exposures, where I'm generally I'm going to be well underweight the 3 onesie. God damn it, I keep saying 3. The 5 onesie allocation. I'm going to draft mostly like 2 7-7-2, 2 6-8-2, 2 5-9-2, even look a little dabble of 2 8-6-2 with extreme 0 running back teams, even the occasional like solo elite tight end type stuff. I'm going to be underweight allocating that many roster spots to the onesie positions, because what I'm hoping for is that I just roll out my best teams, right? You win all your money based on your best teams, your singular best team, quite frankly, every single season. And when I think about what my singular best team looks like, it's like, okay, if I have Lamar Jackson and Brock Purdy, like I think I'm good. If I have Trey McBride and even like Harold Fannin, like in the scenarios in which I've been right this season on that best team, I want to have as many bullets. How do I get Will Shipley onto 70% of teams? How do I dabble in these silly Chris Rodriguez waters? How do I take big stands on Braylon Allen and etc.? So just by drafting more flex options than my opponent is. Obviously, tight ends can technically fill the flex, but I don't really want the tight ends to be filling the flex. I think it's probably a bad sign if like my 17th round tight end is hitting my flex in week 17, right? I want to be dropping, 30 plus points across all my running back spots, my flexes. Obviously, that's a pipe dream. It's not necessarily what you need, but that's my target goal. I want to win the flex because that probably means I'm winning like 6 different positions, maybe 7 across my entire lineup. And hopefully that leads to lots and lots of money. But yeah, so lots of 2-7-7-2. That's been my preferred structure. I do it. I do it sometimes with a hero running back as well, but 64% elite tight end, 47% elite quarterback, 39% elite wide receiver. I have done some of the dual running back, though our definitions here are, this is just 2 top 24 running backs. So right when you get TreVeyon Henderson on here, anytime I take TreVeyon Henderson with another earlier running back, of course, that's going to show as dual running back. 24%, 0 running back, which is no running backs in the top 24. So you have to, I believe Pacheco was the cutoff. I'm not sure that Pacheco is the cutoff anymore. So it'd be like your first running back is the RB25 or cheaper. I did that 24% of the time. Then, of course, we got some of the other stuff. Hero, late round, robust, like I said, a little bully tight end, little bully quarterback, 1-0 wide receiver, 1 extreme robust running back. So you can check all that out in DraftKings. Just super quickly, let's take a look at highest exposure, like week 17 stacks, quarterback stacks, etc. 20% of my teams, Brock Purdy stacks. I love this sort of breakdown. I have kind of, I dabbled in all the different quarterback stack waters. I'm pretty happy with that. But Purdy, Hurts, Lawrence, Lamar, Baker, Penix, Jordan Love being the ones above 10% of my teams having stacks with those quarterbacks. That is not the like just raw exposure to those individual players, though it's pretty close. It is how often I stacked those quarterbacks. In week 17, my correlations, this is all week 17 different stacks that you see here. You can filter down for if you just want to see, quarterback, wide receiver. But the Eagles and the Bills, it's my highest exposure. 50 of my 148 as of right now have Bills. Eagles week 17 correlation, 40 of 148 have Ravens, Packers, and then a few more over 20% Rams, Falcons, Jaguars, Colts, Seahawks, Panthers, Broncos, Chiefs, and of course, it would be gross negligence to not have at least 20% of the Cardinals and the Bengals, though the Cardinals have made that like a little bit trickier with just a weird offense that they got going over there. Did you have any naked QBs? Yeah, I'm quite certain. Sometimes it just happens. I will say it's a good question from Shuby. I try to stack on every single team, but it does happen occasionally that I don't want to force, like I'm trying to like Jahan Dotson is like the perfect Jahan Dotson, like Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel, Dawson Knox, like that kind of stuff. I don't really force it. But if the team, so Shuby will like this because I believe he's in on this player just this morning. Now it was in a drafters draft, but I took Jaden Daniels and I did not get Terry McLaurin, and someone actually took Deebo Samuel well ahead of ADP, which I was not expecting. That was kind of my plan, actually. Things just didn't work out according to plan with the Jaden Daniels stuff, and I did take Jalen Lane in the last round of the draft, rookie out of Virginia Tech, who was running with the ones and looking quite good for Washington. So like I'll take those guys, which leads me to not having very many naked quarterbacks, but it does occasionally happen in some specific subset of teams. You know, like I said, Jalen Hurts, and you just don't get the receivers and you don't get Goddard. Shipley, of course, is a priority for me on those teams, but I wasn't like, if I didn't get him, I'm not like, oh, I got to get Jahan Dotson on this team. Now I'm not like, I got to get John Mechie on that Jalen Hurts teams. That's kind of how I thought about it. No JCM. I have 6%, brother. Come on, Roheen. I got 6%. So when JCM goes full Kyron Williams, I can at least pretend like I'm not dead. I will be, but I can pretend. 20% Purdy and 18% T Law from Roheen. Also love it. Yeah, obviously I am in on those guys. I just wanted to show super quickly. There's all kinds of stuff that you can look at within Draft IQ here. Tons of stuff for your opponents. You can look at your individual player combinations, right? And my favorite view, that's just because it's very, very, very pretty and clean. And if you want to get a quick and dirty for what your portfolio looks like, go to the draft board. If you go to the draft board, obviously the darker, the heavier exposure, the lighter. If it gets down to fully white, you see no Kyron Williams, no Josh Jacobs, one Bucky Irving, but very, very, very dark color here, shading for Trey McBride. And we can kind of just quickly do a scroll before we hop into this BBM. Obviously, a whole bunch of Devontae Smith, Zay Flowers, another one. I've just been scooping those falls. Happy with Abuka and Pearsall, 19% Pearsall. Feel very good about that at this moment in time. I've been getting this Olave number up in recent drafts, buying the Jaden Reed dip as well. Keon was a big guy. I still do take Keon, though it was much more fun when he was just freely available at pick 100. I still take him, but that's why this number is so high. But it was like I said, it was a lot more fun. So it looks like Purdy is stacked every time. To Shuby's question, I had 20% Purdy stacks, 20% overall exposure here. Sharp's a big priority for me. Tucker Kraft, I've mentioned, if there's one tight end, probably outside the rookies, Warren and Loveland and Fannin, I guess. If there was a tight end from outside the top 100 that I think could just emerge into the superstar group, I do think it's Tucker Kraft. So overweight there. Surprised you flat out. You're not surprised about this. Versaire says he's surprised you flat out ignored Cup. You're not surprised about that. Zero Cooper Cup for me. I totally understand that, like, oh, maybe he found the fountain of youth. He bounces back this season, but I don't generally like to make bets on these kind of aging wide receivers in price ranges where there's a lot of, maybe not as much right now, but he's also in the quarterback window. Previously, over the course of the summer, he was in a window of a bunch of like breakout candidate wide receivers, and I'm just not taking Cooper Kupp on. Like I like the Seahawks as like they're going to win some games. They're going to be better as a real life team than people expect. Like Jackson Smith and Jigba is the man there. I'm not all that interested in Cooper Kupp for this year. How about Burrow? Were you stacking him with Chase, and at what price? That is a great question. Let's just let me punch in Joe Burrow teams. Shout out Jason. Cooper Kupp is in the player pool. Joe Burrow on my Joe Burrow teams, of which there are 7. I have 7 Joe Burrow teams. 1 Jamar Chase. So I specifically, as kind of like your question, were you stacking? I took him more with T Higgins, and I bought the dip a couple times. Right, you'll get him plummeting in drafts occasionally, and back stacked him down here with Gesicki. So Gesicki and T are my most frequent stacking partners. Actually, where's Taj? Only 2 Taj teams on the Burrow teams. I think that's probably a mistake, but and there's probably a Burton down here somewhere, is my guess. Yeah, 2 Jermaine Burtons. Wah, wah, wah. RIP to those teams. But as we talked about a lot on various different shows over the course of this summer here, the Burrow, Chase, T, like Chase Brown, Trey McBride, like the combination is so overwhelmingly popular that I was just mostly, I'm overweight Jamar Chase. I took my T Higgins medicine. I've got some Joe Burrow teams, but I just wasn't putting those players combined together, at least not as often as the field was doing. So I just took mostly Bengals guys on non-Joe Burrow teams. And then, like, as you see here, instead of taking Joe Burrow, Devontae Smith, Jameson Williams, Terry McLaurin, Zay Flowers, Jaden Reed. I took the Kyler side. I took Kyler on Burrow. No, I shouldn't say Burrow. So had that filtered down wrong. So on my Chase teams, what you see here, right? A lot of Zay, Devontae, J-Mo. Don't like the Sutton thing. A lot of Travion. Took more Kyler Chase teams than Burrow Chase teams, right? So if everybody's building the Burrow side, I built a little bit, just a couple more, not anything crazy, but a couple more of the Kyler side, and then just like some cheaper quarterbacks, Goff, Purdy, Love, May, Herbert. Just did some different, constructed those teams just a little bit differently than the average person did. But let's just quickly scroll, see if there's anything else that pops off the screen here. Yeah, see 6% JCM, 38% Keaton, 16% Harold Fannin, 24 Harold Fannin teams. I feel pretty good about that. Let's see, 20% Manung guy. That's about it, I think. Nothing else super jumping off the screen to me. But overall, I feel pretty good. Dylan Sampson. Yeah, Dylan Sampson, another guy I'm just hammering right now. Von Go says, you have a ton of 0%. Yep, that's how I like to play it. Specifically in like a BBM style tournament. Really large field, top heavy. Advance rate structures in the playoffs are insanely difficult. I like to put my balls on the table, fade a bunch of guys, and let the chips fall where they may. I understand everybody. That's just like sort of a risk tolerance thing and a personal preference thing in terms of how you approach big stands and big fades. I'm much more of I definitely take big stands, but I take a small subset of big stands, and then I take a decent chunk of big fades, and then I kind of smooth a bunch of stuff out right in the like 6 to 15% range. You see a lot of that across your screen here. I have a lot of the 6 to 15%ers, and then a decent chunk, of the big stands and a good chunk of the fades. That is my overall plan of attack when it is 1 out of 16 advance in week 15 and 1 out of 16 advance in week 16, and then a 524 person final in week 17. Like, I don't think I can flatten my exposures en route to victory. I don't think that's my best edge. There are assuredly some people who can probably do that better than I can. I think some of my edges are some of these other things, and specifically just removing a good chunk of players. So the easiest way to get overweight on someone is by removing someone else, right? If you take 0% of this player who's drafted in every draft, that gives you 8% more to allocate elsewhere. And so that's sort of how I approach, again, specifically something like Best Ball Mania. If you're playing like some smaller field, puppies, chihuahuas, whatever, it's a little bit different because the advancement structures are like, it's so insanely difficult to even just make it to the final of BBM. I want to take the big stands so that, look, if they all whiff, so be it. We move on. We lost 37-50. We move on to next year, and it's all good. But when you hit on a couple of them, it advances a bunch more teams. It advances a wider variety of teams if you're being cognizant about how you combine your players, which is my general approach, right? I'm going to take a big stand on Will Shipley, but I'm going to get Will Shipley on all sorts of different kinds of teams. So if that thing hits, I have a variety of Will Shipley teams. But how do I get overweight Will Shipley? How do I get to that percentage of the elite tight ends, I got to remove guys. Or I got to remove Josh Jacobs. I got to remove Kyron Williams. So that's how you get to 25% of a Trey McBride. And that's sort of just my general bet this year and most years, quite honestly. All right. Enough of that. We dug deep into the portfolio for long enough. Let's go ahead and get we got two drafts to do here. Where the hell is NFL? Enough with the notifications. How did you escape with only 3 shares of Pat Bryant? So sometimes it's better to be lucky than good as a 0 running back bro. I'll tell you that much, because when you just were never drafting wide receivers in that area of the draft because you draft mostly running backs later, how do you escape with only 3 shares of Pat Bryant? You take 70% of Will Shipley instead. That's generally how. I'd want at least 25% minimum Burrow with Chase. Yeah, like that's fine. That just feels arbitrary. And I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just like we're just pulling numbers out of our ass. Like what specifically? Why? Like the reason why I'm like I hopefully tried to explain 105. That'll do. You also can't ignore what your opponents are doing with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. So the 25% number is still lower. It's in the 40+% range of our opponents take Joe Burrow on those Jamar Chase teams. But still, like my whole general thing about the Bengals is that everybody builds those Bengals teams the exact same way. And so just like coming up with it needs to be, I still want 25% of it is just like, why? Like, do you? Like, or do you want to, like I said, put your cojones on the table and say, I'm just not doing it. I'm overweight Jamar Chase. Like some other quarterback just outscored, right? Just is a better pick than Joe Burrow, or in the 4th, 5th. And so at the 4-5 turn, I just need Jameson Williams, Devontae Smith, Zay Flowers, now Terry McLaurin, Travion Henderson, whatever. I just need the receivers at that spot to be better. I'm cool with that bet. If you were able to get them down at the 6-7 turn, which you can't really get very often, and when you could in the past, wouldn't you rather have had a Emeka Buka at that price, or Ricky Pearsall at that price, right? Or something like that. So I'm pretty comfortable with that bet, though I understand, like, of course, wouldn't you want Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow on a team? Sure. But I just sort of took a different angle to it. Let's do Gibbs. The people are calling me a running back hater. So let's scoop up Jahmyr Gibbs here. I don't have the 101. Who does somebody else have this is an influencer in this draft? Oh, Versaire. Versaire has the 101. I see. Just easier to separate from the field without the chalk. I pretty much only took Burrow 6 or 7. I agree. That's sort of my general stance. Do you think just leaning into Chase Burrow fade, you could just fade Chase? Definitely. I think like as awesome as Jamar Chase is, I drafted him. I mentioned I have 11%. I'm excited. You know, probably won't get him in these 2 drafts. I'll have 10% Joe Burrow or 10% Jamar Chase. That's great. I feel good about that. However, if you just walked in to every season and said, I'm fading the 101 because I'm going to use that spot to be different. And just like, if the 101 buries me, the 101 buries me, so be it. He only goes 101. So he's very restricted to the types of players he's also paired with. So if you just said, I'm going to fade that specific chalk, and the easiest way to do that is to cut the head off the snake, which is the 101. Like that chalk snake chalk. We need a name. We need a name for this. Whatever the snake chalk, like we just cut the head right off of it, and like now I'm gonna take JJ there sometimes. I'm gonna take Gibbs there sometimes. Take CD there, Saquon, whatever. I removed Bijan as opposed to removing Chase, but I think you can absolutely just remove Chase from the equation. It doesn't feel comfortable, but these are like tactical exploitative strategy. We're trying to exploit our opponents. We're not trying to just say, I'm going to draft all the good players and hope, shake them all up in a blender and hope, I get one of the good ones. It's like, how do we take, knowing what our opponents are doing, how do we take a plan of attack that is exploiting what they do? We can lose, but we can lose anyway. You can have all the good players in your portfolio and lose because you don't have the right combinations. I really do want to try to get that. Ooh. Let's do. I'm going to do T. I have 10% T, 10% T with Gibbs because I got an idea here in this third round, mentioning the Bengals. I could set myself up for one of those Burrow stacks to appease the hounds. Chris says, I like this tactic more. Saquon or CMC was the one I'd rather try to create better or more unique chase teams. That's what I did. So I'm with you. Obviously, I have 11% Jamar Chase. I took the exact same plan of attack that you did. We landed on the same thing. I am right there with you, Chris. However, I'm just like explaining one way you could play it. Dorito. Yeah, faded Jamar Chase last year. So he's not recommending it. Versaire gets Lamar and Kittle with his Chase. If I lost the chat on the T pick, I'm definitely going to lose the chat on this next one. This is a guy with the run out of the Bucks. As you see here, I almost guaranteed I do not have Mike out of 148 teams. No Mike Evans, Jahmyr Gibbs, no Mike Evans, T. Higgins. That's wrong. He's a guy I was cheating a little bit this morning and looking at some of my Mike Evans combinatorial exposures. And as uncomfortable it is to draft an aging wide receiver in what appears to probably be his last season in the NFL, the run out has not, like, how do we deny the fact that, like, when and if is Jalen McMillan ever getting back with this very serious injury that he had? This dog is hilarious behind me. And Chris Godwin hasn't started running yet at all. I love Emeka Buka. Cade Otton's like a fine player. Rashad White is hurt. Like, I don't know, man. It just feels like Mike Evans is set for just another word. We're just going to be like, yep, Mike Evans is doing Mike Evans things again. And again, this is a combination of players I have not yet gotten through 100. So this is an interesting part of the whole BBM process is if you just kind of keep taking the guys at the top of the list. But if you like T. Higgins, of course, if you like Jahmyr Gibbs, and if you like Mike Evans, there's no reason that they should never be drafted together, but they're never drafted together ever. I never drafted them in 148 teams. So those are just some of the kinds of things that I think get overlooked, including by me. Like I said, this is my 149th BBM. I like all three of those players, and I don't have them together, not a single time. It is my dog, Griff, a.k.a. Griffey, a.k.a. Griff Dog, named, of course, after Ken Griffey Jr. His ears perking up over here as I keep saying his name over and over and over. Versaire says, I don't believe I've seen any folks pulling up Kittle to make combinations. I don't know who you think you're talking to, because it ain't true. It might just be me and you and the Spike Week sickos, but I can assure you I have George Kittle and Jamar Chase teams. I can probably tell. Let's see how many actually. Jamar. I have 4 Jamar Chase, George Kittle teams in BBM specifically. So I'm right there with you. It's a really fun combo to go make. Ooh, T-Mac. Nice. This works. Don't have enough. Don't have like any T-Mac. I have 10% T-Mac with Gibbs. Don't have T-Mac. See, here's another one. Don't have T-Mac with Higgins or Evans yet. This new board is nice, but you want to talk about first word problems. You have to zoom out for it to fit on the screen. It pisses me off. Kittle was going 4 or 5 turn early. Yeah, I just don't worry about those teams because so much else has changed. And the 2-3 turn wide receivers versus the 4 or 5 turn wide receivers, not a big deal. But yeah, good call. Good call from Rick and Kyle that you probably have some teams because he was going at the 4 or 5 turn early. I was curious about your Bijan exposure in BBM and how you're feeling about it. I feel fine. I called him on Monday night in our worst picks of 2025 show, the worst pick of the first round. We talked about the Chase thing. Like I just removed Bijan and used him to get overweight CD, to get overweight Gibbs. Like Gibbs is my RB1. And again, it's like, do you believe in this thing or not? Like, I'm going to put out rankings. I'm going to stream drafts every single day, record 3-hour fucking podcasts with Karain, all this different stuff. And like, do you believe in it or do you not believe in it? And my belief is that Jahmyr Gibbs is the best running back click of the first round. He's the first running back in like quite a while that like strikes fear into my heart if I went into, but I think it would be bad to have, this is just my perspective. I have him at the 103. I have Jahmyr Gibbs at the 103. I have Bijan at like 106 or 7. So like, do I believe in what I'm saying and specifically what I'm selling? Or am I just gonna like put out all these rankings and talk about all this shit all summer long and then just still because I'm afraid I'm gonna draft Bijan? So like, sure, could any first round pick bury anybody? Yeah. Can you get buried because you took only 8% of all those guys? Because there's always there's hits and failures even amongst the first round. Even as good as we perceive the first round to be, there's still going to be whiffs. Guys are going to get hurt. Guys are going to underperform. Their quarterback's going to get hurt or whatever. And so like, even you can't diversify yourself to a win, like even in the first round. So like I said, put your cojones on the table. Do you believe in this thing or not? So that's what I did with Bijan. And I like him. It's not even really anything negative about him. It's just, I kind of don't really understand why he's just automatically the 102. Like I said, I have CD 102 and Gibbs 103 behind Chase. So it's difficult for a guy that always goes 102 that I don't like as much as the market does. And so it was capitulate to the market and don't stand on what I believe in. Or, like I said, put them on the table. Go to battle with what you believe in. I think in my home leagues, I'm drafting Gibbs anytime I can. I'm with you because you could probably build a Gibbs team better in your home leagues than your buddies can because they're going to spend it all on running backs, and you just build a Gibbs team like it's zero running back with a bunch of cheap, if it's an auction, a bunch of $1, $2 to $4 cheap running backs alongside Gibbs, and you can still build out an awesome wide receiver room. I think you can diversify within a portfolio. I agree. That's what I do. That's exactly what I do. I'm massaging I think you want to make some form. It's going to be different for everybody, but I think every season and maybe even in every individual tournament, you want to make some form of bet. What is that bet? Right? Maybe your bet was Bijan. Maybe your bet was the Falcons. Maybe your bet was the Lions. Maybe whatever. Your bet is the rookie running backs. I don't know, but you have a bet. Everybody has a bet that they need to make. So once you've done that, now it's like, okay, I don't need to make a million other bets because I've placed my chips here. Let me see. Is there a receiver available, or do I just take this Burrow thing that you guys are letting me have? I love that we talked about the Burrow stuff and now we're going to do it. That's great. Shout out to you guys letting me get another Burrow team. Versaire in a spike week room is the only one without a running back. Yeah, I saw old Dial Saquon H. Jacobs there, though I do like the recovery with 407 Garrett Wilson, Ricky Pearsall, and Deebo Samuel. I'm a big fan of that recovery attempt. Brees ADP makes no sense right now, says Kyle. How is he not falling to the 6-7? Yeah, I put him in like the 50s, and I think I would take him just from like a diversifying from within a portfolio. I have very little Brees. I took it early. I regret every time I clicked them, at the end of the third round at the 34 turn. And now, if I were to get like some, like 5-6 turn or something, if I were to get some price that is appealing relative to what everyone else has gotten, and it's giving me some combination I never had, then I would probably take him. But other than that, I think he's massively overpriced. Someone I'm also trying to take someone who the early season production has. We just talked about him. I talked about him with our friend Moxie in the Discord this morning. He shouted him out, and I'm glad that he did. A guy who pairs well with, if you're into some cheaper, the Harold, right? Obviously, I have 16% Harold Fannin. If you're into like the Harold Fannins of the world or Isaiah Likely, if you're trying to buy like the Isaiah Likely dip, TJ Hawkinson is a pretty good guy to pair with those guys. I mean, he's a perfectly fine, 7th, 8th, 9th round pick at tight end anyway. But obviously, Jordan Addison going to be suspended for the first 3 games of the season. Jalen Naylor looking like he is not going to play week 1. We'll see what his status is over the course of the first couple of weeks. Lucky Jackson and Ty Felton are the scraps. Justin Jefferson, right, has been dealing with the hamstring issue. I think TJ Hawkinson has very strong early season appeal that you can kind of pair with maybe your fan and your Likely or something like that. And I have not done that enough. That is for sure. I do have Zay Flowers on this team. So, and Isaiah Likely would make some sense. And of course, Harold Fannin, I think, makes sense on just about any team. I also think it could just be a good season for TJ Hawkinson, quite frankly. Otten, totally agree. I mean, if I drafted Kate Otten in this team, I would be perfectly happy as well. Right? Do a little Bengals stack, Bucks stack. Hawkinson fits. Mike Gesicki, has had an injury-riddled camp. Maybe he's a little bit of a slow starter. Hawkinson pairs there. Again, same thing with Otten. Do you do any regular redraft anymore? I do. Just not as much as I used to. That is for sure. We'll do some FFPC stuff, and then I'm in a handful of home leagues. I've mentioned my longest running dynasty league that we just had our rookie draft on Saturday. I have another dynasty league, and then a keeper league. Let me think about this. And then we have another auction and a guillotine league. So maybe 5 or 6 home leagues. Depends on how much FFPC we do. Something like that. 5 or 6. And honestly, I can't keep up with them. I shouldn't do that many, but I can't help it. But there's old Bill. There's old Bill. Jordan Mason seems pretty good on this team, actually. He had a pick 92. Gives us more of the Vikings. Obviously, Gibbs. Little week 17 correlation. Gibbs, Hawkinson, Jordan Mason. If Baker falls back, I would be fine with Baker. But don't need Baker by any stretch. So this gives me outs to McCarthy, gives me outs obviously to keep Baker, and then I have outs to Bryce Young with T-Mac. So I really like this. Just want to look at some winders. Let's use the queue a little bit, huh? because I want to make sure I don't auto like Godwin or something. Oh, Burden. Damn, you guys. Just get some guys in the queue here. And there goes Baker. I didn't figure Baker would come back, but that's okay. Pac Fan says he has 30 dynasty leagues. Holy shit. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. Also, somebody had asked a question earlier that I need to double back to, and I totally apologize after this pick. I've really been trying to get more, frankly, of both of the Saints wide receivers, but more Shaheed. I think he's a really good fit on this team, by the way. Wide receiver 5. We're through 9 rounds. We started with Jahmyr Gibbs, T. Higgins, Mike Evans, Teteroa McMillan, Zay Flowers, Joe Burrow in the 6th, TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Mason, little double tap Vikings, and then Rashid Shaheed as wide receiver 5 alongside those. I'm into this. Let's see. I see your question, Hoagie, and then somebody else asked a question earlier that I forget. Let me see if I can find it. First of all, that's hilarious. Bruce did his first redraft last night, took a book at pick 81, and Yahoo called it the worst pick of the draft. That's hilarious. At least you dodged the Jack Besh coffin. Yeah. Not loving Jack Besh, the prospect, paid off. Loving Trey Harris, the prospect, not so much. So, we donked it back with Trey Harris. Oh, okay. Brandon, rank these wide receivers in full PPR. Abuka, Zay, Devontae Smith. Abuka, Zay Flowers, Devontae Smith, Travis Hunter, T-Mac. Devontae Smith. Devontae. Hold on. No. T-Mac, Devontae, Zay, Abuka, Hunter. So T-Mac 1, Devontae 2, Zay 3, Abuka 4. That's close. I think T-Mac, Devontae are fairly clearly the top 2 for me. But I guess you could say Devontae, Abuka, Zay is all pretty close, but I would put T-Mac 1 and then Travis Hunter very clearly 5th to me. And that one could absolutely look foolish, but I love all those other guys and they just don't have the risk profile that Travis Hunter does. So if I can get the same upside without that risk that those guys have. Looks like a lot of quarterback needy teams between us here. So let's go ahead and just take the McCarthy thing. Feeling good about this start. And got an idea for what to do here in the 11th. Warehouse says I have 500 best ball teams and 0 redraft leagues. That's the sicko. That's the sicko kind of brain that I love. I really got to get out of some of these redraft leagues, I think. Let's see. I'm going to go get my good friend Rob's favorite running back to really build out the Week 17 Bengals thing here. Trey Benson. So we got Joe Burrow to T. Higgins with Trey Benson on the other side. Jahmyr Gibbs with J.J. McCarthy, T.J. Hawkinson, and Jordan Mason on the other side in Week 17. Let's see. Hoagie says make it out to an east. We call it East St. Louis. They call it East Side here where we're from. Everybody calls it East Side. So if I slip up and say East Side and not East St. Louis, I apologize. Make it out to an East St. Louis game this year. They got a 5-star running back recruit that transferred in from Texas. I do plan to make it out to an East Side game this year because, God, they are incredible to watch. For anyone that is unaware of that, that is where Luther Burden went to school. There have been others that have made that's like our local football powerhouse, but that's where Luther Burden went to high school in East St. Louis. Any guys you're trying to jam as we end drafting season? I've been drafting a bunch more Mike Evans. So this is a great question. More Mike Evans, still jamming Pearsall and Ibuka and stuff. The Saints wide receivers, both Olave and Shaheed, I think they're just good picks. I think they were guys I skipped over that I don't really regret this, but they were guys I skipped over because they would go in ranges, right? Like Shaheed would go next to Keon. I just prefer Keon. Olave was going next to or ahead of Ibuka and Pearsall and stuff like that. And I'm happy that I played it the way that I did, taking more, basically like taking Ibuka and Pearsall over an Olave and taking like a Keon or whatever over a Shaheed. Oof. This is a tough scene right here. No, it's not. No, it's not. Dylan Sampson smash. I'm taking more Dylan Sampson as well. I think he's just an awesome click with all this Judkins stuff. I think I like Sampson, the prospect. I've mentioned this several times. Like, honestly, better than Quinshon Judkins, and just rookies missing all of training camp / maybe getting suspended. I don't know. It feels pretty good to like just potentially get a rookie day one starter, even on the Browns. But like Joe Flacco at quarterback is fine. Kevin Stefanski's a brilliant coach. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm missing something. Sampson seems like a smash. So he's on list. But Mike Evans, again, similar to Mike to some like the Olaves of the world. He just happened to go next to some other guys I like better. I definitely like George Kittle better. So I just didn't have enough. Now with the way that things have kind of run out for him, I'm pretty into it. And it's not like his price is going to budge here at the end. So I just want to get a little more Mike Evans, get a little more Olave, Shaheed, continue to hammer Dylan Sampson. The Washington backs, of course, is easy to say with Bill and Chris Rodriguez. I have taken, like we talked about Eckler before. I'm not like super enthused, but I've taken a couple, but again, mainly on like full PPR sites. I like it better. The rookie tight ends, Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, definitely on that list. Okay, like I wanted to make this like the Harold Fannin team or whatever, but I think I am just gonna take this Ferg. I'm just gonna take the Ferg value. Take the Ferg at pick 150 and be done with Hawkinson and Ferguson. I'm fine with that. Sorry, Harold Fannin. Isaiah Likely, I got tricked by the ADP value. I think / hope Travis Hunter and T-Mac will be undervalued in home leagues, says Chris. I think so. I think they will. Yeah, the East Side, they only play like 3 home games, I think, if I recall. Only play like three home games because they travel the country to play like all the they've played IMG and shit. Which look up IMG if you haven't in the Football Factory. They play a lot of awesome teams. Kyle says, do you keep Josh Allen or Derrick Henry in a keeper league? Josh Allen for me. That's great. I feel like the middle rounds are getting really rough at this stage. Yeah, that's what's sort of like round. If like the Matthew Golden and stuff's like off the board in round 7, it gets weird there. That's why I'm like, well, I'll take my TJ Hawkinson medicine. I'll just take Baker in the 7th. I'll take whatever, like some guys that like I think are fine picks, but again, over the course of almost the entire summer, they were just not the best picks at their price to me. There was other guys I valued a lot more. So now that those guys luckily have risen, some have fallen also. Godwin, Mooney, whatever, have fallen out of those ranges. But now that a lot of guys have risen, again, Abuka, Pearsall, etc., have all risen up out of that range, you can take some guys that you think are like fine picks, but they just weren't the priority over other guys in that spot. I like to do that at this time of year. Charles says, still love clicking Samson, Versaire over 30% Samson. I'm with you. Thank you, Viper. Happy 150. Good looking pup that you have here. Did you hear JJ's story about meeting Fannon's mom? I have not had a chance. I have not had a chance yet. I see more of you guys' questions. We'll make this pick first. God damn. Penix still available? This is why you don't stream your drafts. It's just I'm not loving how this is going, guys. Is Shipley gone? Who took which one of you fuckers took Shipley? All right. I'll take Diami. I will take Diami. We're gonna get to. I think we're gonna be the old 2-6-8-2 team here. When T is your first wide receiver, it always makes me feel uncomfortable, and I quite like this running back room. But now it is definitely time to throw ADP out the window in this particular draft. That is for sure. Yeah, see, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done differently, but seeing all these picks these folks are getting is tilting the shit out of me. Michael Penix at pick 168. All right, Keaton time. If you're not going to let me have Shipley, I'm going to take Keaton. All right, let's see here. Will you miss drafting or will you be happy for the break? I'll be happy. To C Spot runs questions. What do you do with yourself once the season starts? Do you do much DFS? Yeah. So we'll flip. The nice thing is I'll flip into straight in-season mode. I play a ton of DFS. I do a ton of betting, whether it be sides, totals, props, pick them, whatever. I do like in-season mode, we just like totally flip. So I'll be very excited for that. And then eventually I'll be burnt out from that and be ready to draft play. It is kind of nice, actually. By the time the season starts, I'm certainly pretty burnt out from drafting and talking about the same things every morning and talking about how, I'm trying to win the flex and how I love Will Shipley every day is can be a little mentally taxing, which is, again, these are the most first world ass problems you've ever heard in your entire life. But you're just ready to try something new when the season gets here. So like I said, I love DFS, and we will be doing, if you enjoy playing DFS, if you enjoy betting on sports, if you're playing in like survivor pools, if you're going to play in the battle royale streets, we're really beefing up our in-season coverage this year. So we've built our first DFS tool, which is a very fun way to visualize what your opponents are doing, similar to how we talk about the best ball stuff with like we have projected ownership and such, but like digging into, okay, if Jamar Chase is the chalk, how often do we expect people to play Burrow with him? How often, like, what do the Jamar Chase teams look like? Shout out to Hacker for putting together a really cool tool that we do have up on the site for premium subscribers. But then just like every week, Battle Royale rankings every week, which, can also sort of be used in with some other applications. But then DFS strategy, DFS picks, betting picks, pick'em slips, survivor breakdowns, all that different stuff will also be doing this year. So I'm really looking forward to it. Let's see. Speaking of a guy I really should have had more of, probably, I want to get just a dash of Ollie Gordon. I think obviously Mike Evans, Ollie Gordon, week 17 correlation, but a guy that, I just didn't really draft all summer. I just had other running back priorities. I understand, maybe that could look foolish. So just a guy that I'm mixing in here at the end of my running back rooms now, as Jalen Wright is still technically the RB2 in Miami, but he ain't exactly crushing his audition here in the preseason, where yet again, Ollie Gordon kind of continues to look better than he does. I think that there's paths to the Dolphins, like extremely real paths to the Dolphins just being an absolute disaster. Of course, Achane is hurt at the current moment. Doesn't sound like he'll miss week 1, but weird situation. Who knows what's going on with Tyreek? Is Mike McDaniel going to get fired in a month or two? It's kind of a tough scene in Miami. So let's play the hits. We got to play the hits. Come on. If we're gonna close out, and I do genuinely just think it's a good idea when you draft some of the guys you haven't been drafting so much to make sure you also still play some of your hits alongside it, right? It's like, oh, I'll take Ollie Gordon on this team. I'll take the TJ Hawkinson thing. I'll get some Shaheed exposure. Well, make sure you also get, right, De'Ami Brown, Jalen Royals, Keaton Mitchell, making sure, like I said, we're playing the hits alongside our guys, so that it's not just like, oh, all my early teams have the same combinations of players, and then all my late teams have a different, right? My Ollie Gordon teams don't have Keaton Mitchell on them, right? They have whoever, Bill or Chris Rodriguez or something like that. Like, I want to make sure that I'm also being smart about those combinations of players. Let's see. Let's get some wide receivers in the queue, though. I do think it's been a good last couple of weeks for KLS. There goes Malik. I think he was interesting. What do we want to do? I got a couple ideas here. Not Jermaine Burton. Yuck. I would love for those exposures to go away. Idiot. Basically, JJ was at the Fantasy Football Expo, saucy on a few claws, and asked Fannon's mom if she had duck feet. As the first he said upon meeting her, she replied, "How you think he got them?" That's hilarious. Am I overthinking this, or does it feel like we are in a dead zone of info waiting on trades? Probably overthinking it a little bit. I mean, we're definitely in a dead zone waiting on Brian Robinson, for sure. But I wouldn't, like, there's just not going to be that many. Some guys might get cut, but like the whole trade stuff, it just doesn't happen very often. We wish cast it in the fantasy world. It doesn't really happen all that often. Do you ever try to draft at night or weekends to get softer runes? Oh yeah, I draft. I'm always ABD, brother. Always be drafting. It's GYG season and ABD. Always be drafting. Get your guys. There's a two tenets I live by in August of every calendar August. It's I'm gonna take Jordan Whittington. That's a guy who I I actually just like straight up think is a really good last round wide receiver pick. And again, I had drafted him. I kind of went through a Whittington phase, right? Like I went through a Burton phase. So if I went through that Whittington phase, let's come back and get an Ollie Gordon, Jordan Whittington team, right? Or whatever. TJ Hawkinson with Jordan Whittington, I think is a pretty good way to close out this team. Of course, we have Joe Burrow and JJ McCarthy at quarterback, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jordan Mason, Trey Benson, Dylan Sampson, Keaton Mitchell, and Ollie Gordon. That's fun. That's a fun running back room. T. Higgins, Mike Evans, Tetaroa McMillan, Zay Flowers, Rashid Shaheed, De'Ami Brown, Jalen Royals, and Jordan Whittington. Okay, I like this team. The tight ends are whatever. The tight ends are boring as shit, but that's okay. TJ Hawkinson and Jake Ferguson. All right, that's BBM 149. Here comes BBM 150. If you would like to be in this and ruin my 150th BBM, there are no more spots, so suck it. You can't get in. Corey, I will check that as soon as we get done here. Thank you for messaging me. When you get a minute, will you show your exposure? Yeah, if you, when we're done, the first like 45 minutes, I went through all of my exposures. So you can check all that out. Like I said, like the first 35, 40 minutes of the show is a walkthrough of all of my, like just about everything you would want to see with my exposures. Yeah, what the hell? Dial. Doing my last few BBMs this week. Any guys aside from Shipley Mitchell to target for leverage as a later BBM drafter? Well, that's like straight up like the other like feather in the cap of Chris Rodriguez is like if he's actually a thing. Like, dude, he's going to be on such a small number of teams. He's one. Damian Pierce. I like the running backs a little bit more, though Jordan Whittington also fits that mold. Damian Pierce. I'll say Damian Pierce, Chris Rodriguez. Last round. Woohoo. Get a Gibbs team and a CD team to close it out. Let's go. It's going to be a good day. Look at this. Great minds. Roheen, Damian Pearson, Chris Rodriguez. Taj Brooks undrafted. Yeah, Taj is a good one. Taj, smash. Love me some Taj. That guy has been spamming Josh Allen or Henry in every best ball stream. Oh, that's funny. Oh, yeah, that question got asked Monday night. Maybe each of them. Maybe Monday night and yesterday. I don't remember. But it definitely got asked on one of the other streams that we did this week. And we also said Josh Allen. So I think he wanted to make sure that we were very sure that we didn't love Derrick Henry, which and clearly not a Spike Week subscriber if you think that there was any answer that was not going to be Josh Allen to that question. A lot of late. Yeah, I haven't really been drafting Jarquez right now, but just because like that is one of those, like I have my Jarquez bags and I have a bunch of other guys I really want to target now. So it's like I'm cool. I got Jarquez. I wish I had him a little more spaced out over the course of the summer, but whatever. Like you can't, you're not going to nail all of these things. You just can't. You're always going to have your Trey Harris's. You're going to have your Jarquez Hunters where you're like, damn it. Like it didn't go quite. But then because we've talked a lot on like Legendary Sickos and other shows, like sometimes you got to pay the tax. Like you got to take swings and sometimes you miss like a Trey Harris, like a Jarquez Hunter. But you pay that tax because instead of taking Jerry Jeudy or Jacoby Myers, who just are never going to be the guy, instead of doing that, speaking of playing the hits, let's play the hits. Trey McBride. Come on. We got to take Trey McBride on our last team. Come on. You got to swing. Instead of taking Jerry Jeudy and Jacoby Myers, right? You take Emeka Egbuka, right? And it's like, shoot, the Trey Harris thing didn't work. But guess what did? Egbuka, Pearsall, right? Even Matthew Golden, etc. Instead of taking Chuba Hubbard, instead of taking Joe fucking Mixon, right? We took Travion Henderson, we took RJ Harvey, we took Amari and Hampton, right? Instead of taking Breece Hall, we took Amari and Hampton. It's like, so you're not going to be right all the time, but you just pay the tax. You know you're going to pay the tax on someone. Maybe you could say we should have first seen the Trey Harris tax. That's certainly possible. But you pay the tax because it more than pays off when you hit a Buka. Bill is still available in my dynasty somehow. What percentage of the waiver budget would you use on him? Oh, a decent chunk. I don't know. I'm really bad at waiver, like what percentage of the waiver to use. I also think it's like really league dependent. Every league is different in like how aggressive your folks are. And like, how do you feel about Bill? I think I think he would be a pretty high priority target. But like, how do you feel about that? I also apparently do not have Mike Evans with these guys, so that feels really stupid. Welcome to Final BBM Day for Erik Beimfohr, aka the Mike Evans hotline. What's your CD McBride combo at like 40%? And I'm it's a very high number, but it's kind of what I want. I've CD it as 102. I have Trey McBride ranked very, very high, like 16 overall or something like that. So it's just, CD and McBride are going to be tied together frequently, but that's why I drafted so much McBride. I moved him all around to make sure that, like, look, I'm going to have a bunch of McBride teams with CD, but I want to make sure I have a bunch of McBride teams with other guys too. So I was kind of willing to eat that combination, like you mentioned. Yeah, that's true. I love this. Dio says, so basically go 0 running back and wrap it up with Chris Rodriguez and Damian Pierce. Yeah, I love that. I have that. I have teams like that. What do you think of drafting Rice and Addison together, potentially covering suspension weeks for each other? Just pair them together in the 7th and 8th in the drafters. I think that's fine. I'm to the aren't you worried? I'm definitely worried about Rashid. They wanted to give him 10 games. Now, see, he's not going to get 10, but it feels scary. Drafters, I think you could maybe navigate it a little bit better. I think the Addison idea makes a ton of sense. Rashid plays the first month, then he passes the baton to Jordan Addison. I think that makes a ton of logical sense, but I'm admittedly, aren't you worried about Rashid Rice? You're goddamn right. I'm very worried about Rashid Rice. Damn, man. Okay. We are playing the motherfucking hits. Jalen Hurts. All right. Play nice. Come on. Someone, if you are here and you are the 101, 102, or 103, I just want you to know that this is my 150th best. After this, I can't draft another Best Ball Mania team. So just give me my eagle here. Just don't do it. Let me get this Hurts Devontae stack, please. Buddha, Matt, and OMG, he did not. Just play nice, please. Would you rather have Bill or Judkins in a dynasty league, not in one, but want to know your like long-term take? I still think Judkins is a second round pick, the top of the second round. I understand lots of things have changed. And I think it still has to be Judkins. And I don't even like Judkins. But I think if I'm capitulating on that, I think it's got to be Judkins. Come on, OMG. Don't do it. I know you need a receiver. Take Zay. Let's go. Devontae. Yeah, this is sick. CeeDee Lamb, Trey McBride, Mike Evans, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith. Exactly. You're totally right. You're totally right, Jim. Should have taken Devontae first, but we'll take it. Judkins will be the goal line back. Judkins needs to be on the Browns first before he's the goal line back. Also, I think Dylan Sampson can be the goal line back. We wanted to ride off into the sunset in appropriate fashion. And as Jim says, I was talking to you guys about Quinshon fucking Judkins. So Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen being with the 2-3, the 102 and the 103, naturally they were probably not going to take Jalen Hurts, and the 101, of course, that's Jamar Chase. So doesn't mean he can. I think my concern level is the 101 double tapping Hurts Devontae instead of taking Burrow. I don't think it's quite as clean cut, but I think I should have taken Devontae first, probably. Yeah, that's good. I feel like in a total points contest, you need a significant dip in Rice's ADP to click in. Maybe just me. Yeah, I took Rasheed the first time on the first time on drafters in a long time. Yesterday in a slow draft in the 80s, like 85 or something like that, and I was like, oh, okay. I think let's just do it here at this price. You're right, Zach. I don't know what I'm thinking. You right. I'm rattled. 150th team. I just wanted Hurts Devontae so bad. My brain broke. It was like when Bowers was getting outsnapped by Michael Mayer and all the fantasy bros brains broke. My brain broke there for a minute. This could be a multi-million-dollar team, says Jerry, if we land the plane. One thing I love that the I think Ralph in the Spike Week Discord. Olave works. Says we don't land planes around here. We go to the fucking moon. Right. And I love that so much. Like, let's not talk about landing. Landing the plane is like okay, let's just survive. Like, we're going straight to the fucking moon when we get a hot start. It's obviously going to be a 0 running back team, but exactly how many of each position, it will almost assuredly be like 2-7-7-2. We'll see what is going on at wide receiver at this spot. It has really dried up in the 7th round now, so I don't totally love it. But frankly, I don't love the running backs that are here either. So we'll see. This is sort of the trickiest pick for me at this spot. Do we take this Tony Pollard thing, right? Get us going. Obviously, he does play against Chris Olave in week 17. Well, we'll see if Tony Pollard's there. Yeah, I think I'm going to take Tony Pollard. Obviously, he'll be good for a 0 running back room to start us off hot. We'll see what happens with Tyjae Spears. Tony Pollard was a guy I was taking quite a bit at the very start of the summer. And then I sort of like processed like, maybe just take that Ibuka guy instead of taking Tony Pollard as your chaperone right there. But I think he's as D. Owen says, Pollard for the run back straight to the podium. I agree. I think he's clearly the right pick. And obviously having Chris Olave certainly helps, but also having a 0 running back team, he makes too much sense. So we started 1-1-4-1 with CeeDee Lamb, Trey McBride, Mike Evans, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, Chris Olave, Tony Pollard. Pretty awesome start here, I think. What if Cam Ward is good? Totally agree. I'm not a huge Cam Ward fan, but he's certainly an upgrade. Like, he'd have to. It would be a tough scene if he's not an upgrade over what they've been trotting out there. My plane landings are rough. Usually a mountain peak hits my team and my players end up eating each other. That's outstanding. Current ADP when going 0 running back, what is your comfy first running back or tier you want? Yeah, I'm not the person to ask. I start plenty of 0 running back teams with like Zach Charbonnet. So where I just took Pollard, Pacheco, Demont, I think Jordan Mason is like the coziest spot to take. Tyrone Tracy is also another very good, as he literally just goes off the board, is another very good, I think, first running back on a 0 running back team. That would be like the coziest spot. But I don't think you have to do that either. Because like I said, I think Dylan Sampson is literally going to be the starting running back on the Cleveland Browns, like week 1. Like that feels pretty good. I think Dameon Pierce, but if you prefer Nick Chubb, sure. Go Nick Chubb. The Jaguars, Tank Bigsby probably gets the first carry for the Jacksonville Jaguars of the season, available at 125, right? I think Trey Benson is like legit going to play like a sizable role. Oof, I should have started looking here a little bit earlier. So I'm just going to take Dak. I understand, what is that? 11 spots ahead of ADP. I want to stay on track here. I want to make sure I don't fall into any traps. I don't auto Travis Kelce, who I do not want on this team. I don't auto Chris Godwin, and there's no one here I think that's like some mega priority. I could do the Saints thing here. I could do Bateman. I could do Burden. I can also do the aforementioned Sharps, who I do like quite a bit. J.K. Dobbins, another good back, I think, on a 0 running back team like this. So now we got options, and I think just locking down quarterback with Dak, obviously having CD, I think is another like just a little cozy way. It doesn't really matter whether I take him, if I took him at the first pick or the second pick, or even at pick 117. It's just an ordering issue. It doesn't really change the quality of the team. We're in a pretty flat tier. Grant and Best Ball, I see your questions. I just want to navigate this turn here real quick. Yeah, I'm not taking Bill at the 809. I'm not taking Bill at pick 100, I don't think. Damn, now I might. No, I'm actually gonna do. I want to look at my exposure stuff here real quick. Shaheed does look good, but getting Bateman. Let's do Bateman actually on this one. I don't really want to shove all my chips in on the Saints passing game. Stay on track. Get a spike week player attached to Lamar Jackson. I got my quarterbacks. I got my stacks. I don't need that correlation anyway. I'm pretty cool with Rashad Bateman. Grant says, I'm in a keeper league. The first overall pick, Malik Neighbors, is going to be my 301. Should I select Jamar? I would take Jamar. Over Bijan, personally. I have Jahmyr Gibbs over Bijan, actually. I don't know if Jahmyr Gibbs is available. If you were to go running back, I would actually take Gibbs. But I would take Jamar over Bijan, personally. Quick old eliminator question, finishing some slows for Best Ball. Are you also doing 2 quarterback, 2 tight end teams, or is that a structure you would take 3? I'm doing 2 quarterback, 2 tight end teams as well in the eliminator. I actually think it's a pretty big edge. I only need, I'm only playing a head-to-head. I want to win the flex in that one, like maybe even more than something like Best Ball Mania. So yeah, I'm taking 2 quarterback, 2 tight end teams, tons of elite. If I have 64% elite tight end in Best Ball Mania, I probably have like 80% elite tight end in the eliminator, the original eliminator. You got it, brother. That's what I would do. if you want your running back, look to the second round. I think it's a little better, especially knowing that you have Neighbors at the 301. Just pair up Chase and Neighbors. Take your favorite running back in the second round. Yeah, see, I do not agree that if the Cowboys score a lot of points, Jaden Blue is going to hit. They can score plenty of points, and Jaden Blue does nothing. There's not even a guarantee that he's like active on game days. It's not even technically a guarantee he makes the team. I think he will, but I'm just saying, like, there's no guarantee that Jaden Blue is doing anything for the Dallas Cowboys this year. It's possible, but it hasn't been the best run out for him either. Being hurt for an extended stretch of camp is not great for the 5th round rookie. He's supposed to be a passing down back, and he's never getting any passing down reps. Hasn't been great for Jaden Blue. Benson is going to play a sizable role. I don't know. I didn't know you thought that, and I've watched a lot of your streams. James Conner himself has been the one saying it in the last 2 weeks. I'm not saying I believed it before, but they keep telling us. I've been supposedly, I care too much about what Coach Speak, what I'm getting from our good friends over at Coach Speak Index. So that's I've been accused that that's the only resource that I use. And spoiler alert, it's not. James Conner told me this one. James Conner told me that Trey Benson is going to play a big role. Going to get a lot more work for the Arizona Cardinals. Damn, see, I was actually going to take Bill there. That sucks. Jake Ferguson Day. Welcome to Jake Ferguson Day here at Spike Week. Wrap up my Cowboy stack. In terms of the Ferg versus Goddard on, right, obviously I have Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott. I can play either one of those tight ends. They go at very similar prices. If I have those two quarterbacks, I tend to prefer Ferguson, just because, of course, the Cowboys are a higher passing volume team, and if the Cowboys stack is going to be the a good one to have, I think it's pretty darn good for Ferg. And not that Goddard is bad or anything, right? It's 1A, 1B type situation. I just would lean more into, as much as I'm hoping for more passing volume from the Eagles, they're never going to sniff the Cowboys passing volume. That's for sure. Yeah, Cullen said, and then the head coach was asked about that, and he said Connor will be our workhorse. See, so I don't only use the coaches. I think he's just saying the word workhorse. I think that they're going to play Trey Benson. Shout out Shuby. Yeah, I'm not. D. Owens, I love you. Devon Achane was speaking of workhorses, an absolute workhorse in the SEC at Texas A&M. Anaya Smith moved away from playing running back to go play wide receiver because they were like, no, sorry, brother, you're good, but we just got to give all the work to Devon Achane. Jaden Blue was the RB3 on his own college team. So, he's athletic, if that's what you're saying. He's small and fast, but, in terms of being a football player, this is a far cry. It's not. I'm not saying he can't become good. He's very athletic. But I think it's fucking Trey Benson. Am I just doing the same team back-to-back times here? Sure, why not? Sure. I mean, he's a pretty goddamn good fit on a zero running back team, Trey Benson, especially with Tony Pollard and Tank Bigsby are kind of giving me a bunch of that early season production I crave from this build. That's hilarious. I didn't bring it up. Let's see. I asked for extreme zero running back for your 150th, and I got extreme. Thank you, sir, says Charles. Yeah, pure. It's even hard to do a pure eye test for guys that didn't play that much. It sucks. What's interesting is I drafted a bunch of them last year in college football DFS. I thought he was a pretty awesome pick last year. Didn't go so well. I'm really hoping one particular nice Samson again. We are playing the hits today. This team rocks. 13 rounds. CeeDee Lamb, Trey McBride, Mike Evans, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, Chris Olave, Tony Pollard to kick off the 0 running back room. Dak Prescott, Rashad Bateman, Tank Bigsby, Jake Ferguson, Trey Benson, Dylan Sampson. We're having fun. What? Shipley incoming soon. 2 8s? No, if I take Tony Pollard, I'm not taking 8 running backs. We'll take 7, but I'm not taking 8. I like my wide receivers are good. They're not 6 wide receiver good. Chris Olave is my wide receiver 4. Rashad Bateman is my wide receiver 5. I would like a little bit more juice on this one. Any help with my trade? Can you repost it? Sorry, I missed it wherever it was. I apologize. I did not mean to overlook that. Me too, Mac. Team's kind of getting me going. Most running backs you've taken on an 18-round team. Most running backs I've taken on an 18-round team is 8. Most running backs I've taken on a 20-round team. This is cheating. In Superflex, I've taken 10 running backs. I've taken 9. I've done 9 running back teams in 20 rounds. I just dropped Brashard Smith for Miles Sanders because Cowboys running back who will play. I can't even push back on that. It makes me feel it makes me sick to my stomach thinking about that. But like, what can we do? Every week it doesn't look good for Brashard Smith, and I don't know. Although Miles did play in this week's preseason game, which didn't make me feel very good about his prospects, but still, I can't argue with you. If a contest doesn't fill, do more people advance from the pods? Yep. So there'll be, if a contest doesn't fill, they are legally bound by the amount of teams that advance to the playoffs. So they'll start taking the highest scoring third place teams is what they will do. Ooh, there's something in particular. God damn. Oh, Garendo is a guy. Garendo. Somebody asked about guys you're drafting more of right now. Hold on. Go get your guys. Go get your guys. Will Shipley on the Eagles team, of course. Come on. BBM 150 Eagles stack, 0 running back. Gotta have Will Shipley. Got to. Mandatory. This is goddamn beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I'm having fun. I'm having a lot of fun. Let's see here. Oh, sorry. Just realized I'm still filtered by running back. We're playing the hits today. BBM 150, Torrey Horton in the 15th, Will Shipley in the 14th. I wouldn't have it any other way. All right. Let's see here. Those are the counting stats. That's funny. Yeah. 15 games. And how many of those stats came in? Any meaningful games? What a stud. Takes 15 games and a bunch of blowouts where you get in against Louisiana Monroe and shit. It was Louisiana Monroe, wasn't it? That's funny. That's great. The Sprite. Hold on. I need a running back. I have Swift. I have Swift at RB2. That's okay. I don't like it. So the only running back that was available for trade was Kamara, and I mentioned Swift, Pittman, and Cup for him. Let's see. All my wide receivers are still out of. Yeah, if you won't use Pittman and Cup, and you want, I don't think there's that much of a difference between Swift and Kamara. I think Kamara's better, but it's kind of the same thing, right? It's like a pass catching back who's like not going to get all the stuff. The Bears offense is probably going to be better than the Saints. So I don't know that you got to give up Cup and Pittman plus Swift to get Alvin Kamara. But if you really want Alvin Kamara and you're not going to use, I definitely don't care about Cooper Kupp. I don't mind if there's a guy you really, really want. That's something that I personally prescribe to. Like, it's really easy to be like, what's the appropriate value for all of these guys? And like, at the end of the day, do you want some guy on your team? Go get him, man. Like, if you got to give up an extra Cooper Kupp to get the guy that you want on your team, go for it. I see no problem. I will say that backfired for me in my main dynasty league. I ended up giving up Ashton Genty to get Justin Jefferson, but nonetheless, I basically traded Ashton Genty and Bijan Robinson for Justin Jefferson, and it ended up being a Buka. So like, I lost the trade, but it could have been worse. And I really wanted Justin Jefferson, and I didn't want Bijan. So, go get your guys. All right. We're definitely going to go get our guys here. Is our guy Kyle Monangai? Is our guy Taj? Is our guy? Yeah, let's do Monangai. Let's get a little Q going here to make sure we don't screw this up too bad. Oh, that's a fun click on this team. All right. We got the Q loaded. We are good. We take Monangai in the 16th after Shipley and Horton. Did you win the league? Nope. Nope. Oof is correct. Last BBM for real? That is correct. See, money. This is that you are looking at the last 2 picks I will make in Ball Mania 6. We got a lot of drafts left to go, though. It's just this. I got literally multiple hundreds of drafts left to go. So Taj goes. I'm gonna take. I'm pretty certain Io Manor is the correct pick here. Rounds out my wide receiver room. I'm excited about him. He's a late round guy that I liked Torrey Horton, Dante Thornton, Jalen Royals a little bit better than him. I am still overweight Io Manor, but I'm happy to snag him here as my last wide receiver on this team. I really do like a Torrey Horton, Io Manor, way to close out wide receiver. Obviously, I have CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, Devontae Smith, Chris Olave, and Rashad Bateman, kind of the locked in guys, but there's no total mega breakout player there, right? Obviously, CD is all, those guys are all good, but there's no and they could be underpriced or whatever, but none of those guys are going to emerge into, outside of CD that's already in the first round. None of those guys are going to emerge into first round picks. So then backfilling my wide receiver room with those kind of rookies, I think is exactly how I want to do it. Don't add on Pop Douglas and then Tyler Lockett and Wandale, and those guys don't matter on this kind of team. I got the high floor from my veteran stud wide receivers. Let's also add some. Honestly, there's a floor to these guys too, just the same, but maybe a slightly lower floor, but also some real upside that this could be just an absolutely supercharged wide receiver room. and then we'll attach one more running back. Should I drop Jalen Royals or Alec Pierce? I would drop Alec Pierce in Dynasty. I don't know when you're ever going to start Alec Pierce in Dynasty, and Jalen Royals is the upside swing that I would want. My home league with my buddies decided to switch to a Dynasty league. It's 10-team, full PPR. Oh, half point or a quarter point per carry. 4 flexes. Jesus. How would you approach the first few rounds from the 102? I still like, in full PPR, I still like the superstar wide receivers, superstar tight end, and then spamming a million running backs to try to hit, right? The 0.25 per carry is not just good for the, like, you can get carries. You can buy cheap carries, right? Tony Pollard, Isaiah Pacheco, Tank Bigsby. You can buy cheap carries, Dylan Sampson, but like spam a bunch of running backs to try to buy those cheap carries. But I still want to have the superstar wide receivers in full PPR, the superstar tight ends in full PPR for me. And then from a dynasty perspective, I also really want to have the superstar wide receivers and tight ends in that format. Is Trey Harris dead? No, he's not dead. He's wounded. Took a flesh wound. 'Tis but a flesh wound. He took a flesh wound, but it's not ideal. This is correct. Eric and home leagues do not mix well at all. Any pick 6 recommendations? No, I haven't been able to dig into that one just yet. Let's close it out. Let's add. We played all the hits, all the fucking hits on this team. Now let's add the new final round flavor of the month. If you notice, he plays against Dak Prescott and my Cowboy stack in week 17 with Chris Rodriguez. So we had to put the final cherry on top with a like 5% owned player or whatever he's going to be, who correlates in week 17 alongside all of the season-long, summer-long hits that we played on this team. How are you going to celebrate? I'm going to go to the gym. That's what I'm doing after this. That's my plan. Let's see. Okay. I thought I saw something in the Discord or in the, in the chat. All right, let's run down BBM number 150. Very fitting. CeeDee Lamb out of the 104. Trey McBride. We played some hits, but we mixed in some stuff that I haven't gotten quite as much of. Mike Evans in there. Chris Olave down there in round 6, but sandwiched in between there, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, my Eagle stack. Again, if you guys know, if you've watched a bunch of the BBM teams that I've drafted over the course of the summer leading up to number 150, a lot of Eagles love, a lot of Eagles passing game love for me. Tony Pollard seems like a pretty goddamn good fit on this team as RB1 in a 0 running back room. Just took Dak. I'm pretty happy that happened. Rashad Bateman staying on track at wide receiver. Tank Bigsby, also a pretty goddamn good fit, I think, on this team. Jake Ferguson to go with my Cowboy stack. Trey Benson, Dylan Sampson, and of course, Will Shipley had to be on this team. Pretty good little triumvirate of running backs that fit. Torrey Horton, Kyle Monunga, Alec Iomanner, and then the cherry on top that I would never, ever, ever have drafted all summer as my last running back on a team like this, Chris Rodriguez. This was very, very fun. I agree. A word instead. If you guys that are watching right now could all hit the thumbs up button really quickly for me. Thumbs up. Eric's done with Best Ball Mania. I appreciate you guys hanging out and watching this video and sweating these 2 drafts with me, walking through the exposures. If you joined later and you want to see all of my player exposures, my stack exposures, my roster construction, right? How often did I draft 2-7-7-2? How often did I draft an elite tight end or 0 running back or whatever? I broke that all down in the first 30 to 40 minutes of the video, which of course was then followed by these 2 Best Ball Mania drafts. That's it. That's it for BBM season. For me, enjoy those streets the rest of the way. I'll be over in like the big eliminator and stuff. And of course, I got a lot of DraftKings and Drafters drafts still to do. So that's where we'll be tomorrow here in on the Spike Week channel. And of course, drop a comment on today's video to get entered to the free ticket giveaway on Friday at the end of the show. This was fun. BBM season was fun. Good luck to everyone. You'll need it drafting or playing against those monsters we just drafted here today. But I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.